Welcome everybody to this week's Founder Chat. I'm really excited to be talking here today with Leah Coss, who is the co-founder and president of Build a Biz Kids. So we're going to learn all about kind of the origin story, as well as some tips that, or what like Leah's entrepreneurial journey has looked like and some tips she's learned along the way. And essentially, if you haven't been to one of our Founder Chats before, whether you're joining us live here right now, or if you're joining us on IGTV or YouTube later, feel free to ask questions. We kind of have a bit of some questions that I go through typically every week, but I also welcome questions from those who are joining us at any point in time too. So I'm Melanie Ewan, and if you don't know Volition, we build connectivity, capacity, and knowledge in global startup ecosystems. And we started these Founder Chats about a year ago, and I'm really excited to say that this month's Founder Chats, due to International Women's Day and Women's History Month, are brought to you by Startup Canada's #StartupWoman program. Yes, thank you, Startup Canada. And also that program is also presented by some incredible partners of Startup Canada, which are Sovereign Insurance, as well as UPS, Scotiabank, Inniskillin, PayPal, EDC, and SIPO. So a nice long list of people who are working hard this month to sponsor some incredible content and just people in the community who are doing really neat things across Canada and beyond. It's an international program. So I'm really excited about that. And as I mentioned, we have here Leah, who I haven't had the opportunity to really get to know yet. So I'm really excited about this. I know that you've come to some of our live pitch events back when things weren't so virtual, back in that land before time. And I know you've met Paul, my business partner. He's in Vancouver. And that you have also participated in our Crofton events. There's a school here in Vancouver that is a high school for girls, and they partner with Volition the last 2 years to put on an innovation challenge, and Leah has supported us on that, which is very cool. So Leah, you and Build a Biz and your team at Build a Biz are on this mission to change the way that we value and educate kids in our society. And so I would love to know, that's pretty vague. I'm not going to get into details myself because I think that you probably can tell it better, but I feel like that's like a tantalizing morsel, and let's hear about how you do that and how you what this mission looks like for you. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you. Please feel free to tell us in whatever way you want, kind of who you are, and a bit about that origin story of Build a Biz and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, you bet. So my personal mission is to change the way that we value individuals, humans of any age. And it's because fundamentally, when we really buy into what society dictates that values us as a child, having A's on these multiple choice exams in academia and things like that machines are now doing, it's misguided, it's not relevant, and it's certainly not fulfilling. And then when we get older, it's how much money you have, what you wear, what you look like, what success looks like in other people's eyes. And that really stifles our ability to truly grow and flourish and ultimately live really successful, fulfilling lives. Now, I used to be a consultant in franchising, and God bless all consultants and coaches out there, but I like to think that I kind of sold out on the consulting industry because I'm like, you know what, adults are too hard to like fix because we're so set in our ways. We fight for our limitations, and I'm like, let's just fix the kids before they get all messed up. Yeah. And so that's really what Build a Biz Kids is. The number one thing that people hear or say rather when they hear what we do with our students in the programs and with education in general is, I wish they had this when I was a kid. Yeah. And that's exactly why I started this with my partner, Braden Ricketts. So ultimately, Build a Biz Kids has changed and transformed, not just because of COVID, but it evolves like pretty much every company out there, right? It started as a registered nonprofit back in the beginning of 2018. As of last week, we are officially a charity. It's such a long road.
Oh my goodness. Oh yes, congratulations. That is a long road.
It is. So very excited. And I know some people on here are going, oh, it's a nonprofit, it's not a real business. Totally get it, because I actually am not a big advocate of the nonprofit industry, only because it's not traditionally a sustainable business model.
I was gonna say,
yeah, you're reliant on grants, and if you don't get that grant, you're laying off 30 people, and
you still need the money, just like a for-profit. You need that money to be able to fund all the activities on a sustainable basis.
Exactly.
So, absolutely.
So when we started this, and being that I come from franchising, which is all about system, sustainability to grow. And then you match that with, I think, all of our innate passions these days, which is to actually have a real purpose, to feel like what we're doing is having an impact in some sort of social way. You match those two things together, and what we've created is a sustainable model, meaning we do generate revenue while having the bonus of getting to apply for grants. And we look at those as projects. We have got also a huge community. We are very much about volunteerism, because we have our paid staff, but then we have about 60 volunteers that all work with us. And it has not only helped us and the people that we support through COVID, but it's helped them. You know, we talk about COVID and obviously the health effects, but it really threw a lot of people's lives upside down in a economical way. And so we have got 60 people that are building portfolios, doing what they love, pivoting their careers during this transition time, new to the country and having 15 years experience in their home country, but nobody will hire them because they don't have Canadian experience. And we've been able to really create this cool community that's allowed us to be sustainable with or without grants, and to take on passion projects, that we would have never been able to do if we thought, well, how are we going to pay for this? Instead, we said, let's just throw it out there and see if anyone's really inspired to like take on this really cool, like we're creating a stock market game for kids ages 7 to 13 where they get to invest in the real stock market. We have a virtual reality program simulation that's being developed by Arizona State University that is simulating kids delivering pitches, just like at Volition, but they're delivering it to an audience, and it's using Watson AI technology to gauge how fast are they talking, are they nodding their head, are they making eye contact. It's so cool.
That's amazing, and I want that for my pitch events.
Right?
Yes.
So, you know, that really what we're doing is we're challenging the education system. We're helping to cultivate human skills instead of just the academic and technical skills. And interestingly enough, a lot of the times the medium that we use is entrepreneurship for the kids, because kids don't need to be entrepreneurs, but if they can think and learn and cultivate all the skills that it takes to be a really awesome, fun entrepreneur, like critical thinking, decision-making, leadership, collaboration, resiliency. I mean, those are the things that AI can't replace. They're also the things that are very fulfilling, and they're going to serve them in whatever career they decide to go in. So that's why I'm starting it. I wish I had this when I was a kid. There needs to be a change, and we're finding now.
I think it's so interesting because I often hear people say that as well. I wish that I'd had as a kid, and I didn't even know entrepreneurship was a thing when I was a kid. And I'm preparing for a talk tomorrow, and that's kind of like where I started to dig into, is that I didn't know, and therefore went on all these different paths and tried so many different things, and none of it fit and none of it worked for me. And I wasn't able to make the impact that I wanted to make in the world and kind of reflect my values in my work until I started building something for my own. I know lots of people, there's many different paths to entrepreneurship. What I love is that I'm seeing younger people start from that values first place. And like they already have a lot of these skills that they're learning in school because there's this entrepreneurial kind of mindset training. And I'm so excited for the future. It makes me incredibly hopeful. So at Build a Biz Kids, do you design, develop, and deliver this kind of like experiential and entrepreneurial programming? Is that what it looks like? Okay.
Yeah. So when we first started, it was primarily just delivering programs. We would subsidize youth from vulnerable communities. We had kids as young as 7 years old launching a business for the first time in the mall. So that's one thing that we don't do, is we don't contrive their environments. We go, here's the real world. You're going to get some real mean people coming up to you. And and, you know, kids are so resilient. I mean, there's things that customers have come up to kids' booths that blow my mind because they're so negative. And I'm like, an adult would cry. And yet the kids are like, they're grumpy. And we're like, oh my gosh. So funny. So that's how we started. Since then, we're realizing that that's good, but we want to also develop the teaching methodologies, the things that we do. Why keep those close to the chest? We're very much a mentality that there's no such thing as competition, just a lot of other people running in the same direction. So let's do it together.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're utilizing, we're developing different teaching methodologies. We also help to teach the teachers with different curriculum. I mentioned a bunch of software that's pretty cool that we're developing. All of these are also going to be other revenue sources of being able to license these and make them widely available all across the world. So it's still evolving. COVID definitely gave us a big kick in the pants. And I have to say it was a lot of fun. Like, of course, COVID was devastating, but it was great. The rule book literally, I mean, the rule book never actually existed, but it always felt like it was there telling us we're doing a bad job, right?
Yeah.
When there's no right answer in the world. But when COVID hit, it was like, everybody else has thrown out the rule book. There isn't one. We can literally do anything we wanted. So it's been a lot of fun. And through that, we actually ended up starting a secondary for-profit social enterprise. We're actually one of the first benefit corporations registered here in BC. So yeah, lots of good things happened through that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's amazing. So I was curious, because you're talking about how the businesses really, or the nonprofits evolved. Now you have this other arm, and how COVID was this opportunity to really try things out and experiment. And there were a lot of like good aspects to that. But you also work with the education system. So I'm curious about what that has looked like for the past year.
Yeah, so we very much act as a supplementary arm to education in whatever a parent does for education. So for example, I just met with someone today who actually does something called unschooling. It's a whole thing. It's another step up from homeschooling. But whether your kid's in public school, private school, homeschooling or unschooling or something else, microschooling, self-directed learning, you know, living in the woods and just learning from nature, whatever it is that you're doing, this is meant to be supplementary. And something that teachers, school districts, and parents as individuals can access and use this to enhance whatever fundamentals that you know our school systems dictate that they need to utilize. This allows kids to have purpose. One of the examples that I give is, you show me a kid who struggles in math, but I bet you if I give them $20 and say, can you make me change, they're gonna learn math really quickly, and they're gonna have fun and be excited to figure that problem out because it has purpose and relevance, and they need it right now. But when you talk about Timmy and Susie having apples and oranges, just like you and I, if we go to like a really boring lecture, we're like, I know I'm supposed to learn something here, but it has no relevance to my life right now. That's how kids feel every day. Well, I won't speak for all of them, but I know it's how I felt. And meanwhile, we may have needed that information later on. I mean, algebra is something we use in business all the time. How many widgets do I have to sell at what price in order to achieve X? And we needed that, but at the time, I didn't care. It wasn't relevant. So if we can start putting education in a relevant tone that has purpose in the real world, all of a sudden kids are going to start to learn, and they're going to retain, and they're going to be able to think for themselves, because now we're not telling them, learn this math. We're saying, what do you think you need to figure out in order to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve? And now we're rolling. Now we're doing what we all need to do as adults.
Yeah. And what has the response been from working with different, like talking about like adults and how we get people like to send all of their opinions our way about our businesses and everything, and walking into these school systems? I know things have changed a lot, and people are thinking differently. I come from a family of teachers who were very creative in how they taught, which is very cool. But what has there been any like difficulties in kind of bringing this into any of these school systems, or are you feeling like it is this like perfect moment to bring these in?
So here's my actual philosophy around the education system and systems in general. So to date, we actually have not delivered any kid programs to school systems. In fact, I just finished up a speaking tour, which was more focused on teaching the teachers how to build trust and connection through things like Zoom and what we're doing now. So that's been most of the education system. What we have utilized them for is maybe the PACs who said, can you offer your program as an after-school program here?
Right.
But when you have a system as robust as the education system, or really any government arm, this is just my personal opinion, and obviously using a lot of slang to communicate my point here. they aren't going to take a risk on something that's not proven.
Yeah.
And even if they were to, it can take long enough that by the time what we're trying to communicate to them gets through, it might be obsolete. And the
Right.
whole ethos of what we're wanting to do is stay relevant. Make sure that what we're doing is always important and that we're cultivating the skills that are going to last kids the next 50, 60 years. The problem is a lot of these skills that we're trying to teach, these human skills that AI can't replicate, they're not measurable.
Right.
And school systems need to measure. They kind of have to have like a bit of a, excuse the word, pissing contest with one another. Oh, the US is better than Canada and better than Europe or whatever it is, right? And this school district is struggling. See, their math grades are really low. And meanwhile, it has in the real
and getting
world.
funding has to do, doesn't getting funding have something to do with how many of your, from high school, how many of your students go to university and college? It was before, previously. Some of your funding was based on that, which is, I didn't go to university till I was 24. And I don't believe that everyone has to do that. It's, yes.
Yeah, right. That's
lots of fields. Yeah.
So my feelings is when you want to change the system, God bless the protesters that sit out on, in front of different agencies. But my feeling is it's often easier to build a new system, attract enough followers to it, that then the old system goes, oh, we can just plug and play that. Okay, you've proven yourself. You have enough following and validity that we can't ignore it any longer. Yeah. So rather than challenge them, tell them what they're doing wrong. Nobody loves hearing that. And to be honest, I think a lot of the education system knows that they're a little bit behind, right? COVID was probably the biggest indicator because they could not wait to get back to normal, as opposed to going, oh, what does this mean for the future? Sorry, I had to look. Battery signal going there. No,
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, like, are you going to be okay? Is your battery going to last? Yes. Yeah. For future of education, like, we got it. Yeah.
Totally. So it's really about saying, what can we do differently going forward? And they didn't take that opportunity. Instead, they just said, oh my gosh, where's the Band-Aid? Close it all down. We'll do a temporary Band-Aid. And then, our first, our focus right now, this has been in so many newspapers, our focus is child safety. Really, your focus is supposed to be their education. So why not focus on the education and screw the safety, just keep them at home or figure out an alternative way, learn in a park, whatever you have to do. Let's get a little bit progressive instead of going, when can we get back to normal? We need to get into the 4 walls. We need to stick kids in 4 walls so that we can contain and protect them from learning what's really happening in the world and only learn what we tell them to learn. And that does not serve.
No. I can tell that you must have talked about this many times before. It must come up all the time in your head. Amazing. But I know seriously, like my sister, she's developed a 1 class per day has to be outside in her classroom. And she said when she first started implementing this back in September, there was so much pushback. And just like, you can't do learning outside. She was trying to do all of her learning outside. And she was just like, there was so much pushback that she had to be in her portable. And now she's gotten to the point that the kids love it so much and are learning so much out there. And having that kind of experiential learning piece where she uses nature to teach things, that people are starting to buy in. But it's, taken this time, and it's so ridiculous. It's something like you say, like getting into parks, like.
Well, here's my thought. So, it's crazy to me that we get kids on a school bus to take them to 4 walls, and that child lives in a bubble, essentially. They only learn what happens in their household, what happens in school, and even when they go to the grocery store, it's about what their community has all agreed upon are the social ethics of how we communicate, how we interact and stuff. Meanwhile, you go to Texas, and that child would be like, whoa, they talk different here. Whoa, they have a different school system. Whoa, their parents, discipline their kids or whatever it is. It's a different bubble. Yeah. And so because of that, I mentioned this other company. It's called BBK Network. And the idea is that we have an online classroom where they just learn the concepts, and then they go into their local communities and execute on those. But when they're in the classroom, they are no longer in a bubble, because that one classroom has a kid from Florida, California, Colorado, BC, Ontario, all in one room. And they're going, oh, you're from so far away. Like, that's interesting. Really? You're going to start that kind of business? Do people even care about that over there? And all of a sudden there is no walls. There is no, you know, having to conform. Instead, they're getting to really stretch their brains and hear alternative perspectives, which, you know, politics, education, COVID, vaccinations, the world would get along so much better if we were more accepting of understanding alternative perspectives. And the earlier we can get kids to embrace alternative perspectives and critical thinking for themselves, I mean, how amazing could the future be?
Yeah, I feel like I could talk about this forever. I have so many things in my brain right now, but I'm cognizant of our 30 minutes. I wanted to say hello to everyone who's joined us since, and again, whether you're joining us live or later, hello, hello. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any, and say hello. But yeah, so I wanted to learn, I did promise everyone that we would extract from your brain some of the lessons that you've learned or the tips that you have for people who are starting today. And I think your journey sounds so fascinating because you started in that consultancy world and then moved into Billions nonprofit with a massive volunteer team, which is a whole other lessons learned kind of category, and then also are building this other business or social enterprise. So I feel like we could have like a couple of hours dedicated to your lessons learned, but what are a couple of tips you have for someone who might be starting out today, and maybe they're interested in starting something that has social impact, and whether it's going down the nonprofit route or social enterprise route or whatever it happens to be, who would you talk to, or what would you maybe tell someone like that just starting today?
Yeah, it's so interesting because much like you, there was no such thing as entrepreneurship. It was your own business, which usually meant like the hustlers buying and selling cars or something like that, right? And when it comes to females, that was just completely
didn't resonate at all.
Yeah, totally. It was all about working your way up the corporate ladder. Now, what's interesting is, having worked with a lot of incredible CEOs over the years, the biggest source of relief that I found was the day that I figured out that everyone successful is, to a large degree, making it up as they go. There is no book. You know, we can go and learn about financial statements, which is important. We can learn about how to deliver an effective pitch. That's important. We can learn all these certain fundamentals. But at the end of the day, if you walk into a room and, you know, just jump up and down 3 times before delivering your pitch, well, that'll probably be remembered, right? And then it's still up to you to deliver from there. But like, you can think outside of whatever there's just so much conformity around and us seeking the right answer, right? What is the meaning of life? Tell me the answer, and then I can be okay from there. There is no right answer. So
there's just paths that you choose.
It is. And so don't be scared from that. Feel liberated. And that's why COVID made me extra liberated, because I'd always known that, yes, a CEO is using their experience, they're using their team's experience, they're using their gut. But whatever you learned over here in this particular industry, this particular time and place that it was utilized, in whatever market, it might not work over here. So just think for yourself and feel liberated that there's no right answer, and you're just trying as many ways as possible to make whatever you're trying to do work.
Yes. It's very timely for me to talk to you right now, because like I was saying, I have this talk tomorrow and it's been on my brain so much, and it's all about exactly what you're talking about right now. So I'm like, okay, this is great. This is validation.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I appreciate that a lot. Amazing. Okay, so we've heard a lot about the origin story. We've heard about kind of your take on the education system and how Build a Biz and everything that you're doing is kind of going to be or is already changing the way that kids are learning. We know your personal mission is to change the way we value humans in society in general, and you have this very systematic approach. So I feel like we've learned a lot about you in 30 minutes, which is incredible. So I think what I want to understand is, at this point, what can we do for you? You've given us a lot in the past 30 minutes. So what can we do for you as your community here today to support you?
Thank you so much. So obviously, as a charity, you know, just your support, whether that be in vocalizing to people that you know who have kids, partnership opportunities where we love partnerships. And gosh, we're very creative on how we've been able to utilize those. And then of course, anyone who would like to contribute to the cause, we also try to fight the digital divide to make sure that every child is not left behind. At this stage, we believe that household high-speed internet should be a human right, just like public bathrooms. It's impossible for any family to ever get ahead if they don't have access. So we do have programs for helping us to buy laptops and computers and such for kids.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But I would be amiss if I didn't say just helping to catch yourself when you ask others to conform to your beliefs, whether that be to your child and how they view the world, telling a friend who wants to start a business or start a new workout or health regimen, and you're telling them what's what, to just catch yourself and go, where am I getting that information from? Did I verify that somewhere? Did I do my own research, or am I simply just touting the things that society has told me? And I think getting some more critical thinking going on in all of our lives, and acceptance and great dialogue. One of the things I've been really trying to practice is to lead with asking more questions before giving the opinions. And I have a lot of opinions, as you can tell. So it's definitely something I have to practice. But yeah, if we can really get good at asking great questions, that's going to make the world such a more interesting, fascinating place.
It does. My mom was just telling me about something called the art of conversation. I can't remember who wrote about it or what it was, and she was like, people who can ask great questions throughout the entire history of humans, this is what has allowed you to get ahead, essentially. So it's funny that you should mention that, but I think that's also something for me. One of the reasons that we did this, that I love doing these weekly IG lives, is that I get to ask a lot of questions, and my personal why is to ignite curiosity, and part of that's to ignite it in myself, because I also have a lot of opinions, very opinionated when I was younger, very vocal about my opinions. And have learned over time that, but I'm also very introverted, so I always like to sit back and listen. But now I realize the way that I can kind of like marry the curiosity with introversion is to ask those questions and continue to learn and grow, and then do my own research and come to my own conclusions, and then use my voice for that, which is, I love it. I love that approach. And I think that the world would obviously be a better place if we all just ask more questions. I love that so much. So thank you so much for sharing that. And so if you are listening here right now and you're like, yes, this sounds incredible, I want to get a hold of Leah, what is the best way for people to connect with you personally?
You bet. So we've got two websites. We have the bbknetwork.com. And then we have buildabizkids.com. That website got like a virus just this last week. So we've got to figure that out, or I don't know what it is, but it's glitchy. So the menu's hard to read and things like that. We're working on it. But you can definitely go to the websites. If you want to connect with me though, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people there. You can follow me and my journey. But Leah Coss is me. I'm the only Leah Coss out there, so I'm easy to find.
Perfect. Okay. And you're also on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, I saw, at Build a Biz Kids. I think it is across the board. Okay.
Across the board. You bet.
Perfect. All right. So you can go and find them, and especially being a nonprofit, I mean, all businesses and nonprofits, this is helpful for, but go and find them, like them, share the content, kind of share your ideas as well. I think that's always incredible to, if you heard something here today that you're like, yeah, that's interesting, or like, I don't know about that, wherever you are on that on the spectrum, share it and let people know, and let's start those conversations and ask those questions. So we can kind of take forward what Leah has taught us here today. So thank you so much. And is there anything that we didn't have an opportunity to talk about here today that you had wanted to mention?
Oh, there's so much. We won't open that bag of words because I can talk about so much stuff. But yeah, I mean, if there is anything that we can do, or I can do personally that can help you with your mission, if you see anything here that you would like to be a part of, let us know. We're always looking. Really, passion is the #1 requirement for working with us, whether you're a partner, an individual, a parent, a child. So just feel very welcome to reach out to us, and we'd love to just see what there is there to discover together.
Incredible. Okay, so to wrap us up here today, there's one last question I like to ask, which is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
My view.
What are you looking at? I was like, oh, what is it?
Yeah, I don't know if I can spin this around.
Oh, yeah.
So I stare at the ocean every day.
Oh.
And My view just, it lifts me up, whether it's rainy, whether it's sunny. I love it. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's such a thing. That has been one of the biggest lessons of 2020 for me, because I moved around a lot when I was in Ireland over the past year, and have learned that my requirement in a future abode is that I need to have a view, ideally from my bedroom, but as a view of something that brings me joy and something that lifts me. Because right now I'm in a basement suite with no natural light, and it is not lifting me up any day. So your view makes me very happy.
Yes.
Thank you for
get
sharing.
Outside, everybody. It makes such a huge difference. And not joking, literally hug a tree. Getting that energy from the earth. It's amazing to me how little our bodies actually touch the earth these days with our rubber-soled shoes. Hug a tree, get that energy from the earth. It really makes a huge difference.
Yes, climb trees. Yes. I've also been bringing that back this year. I love it. Okay, so thank you so much, Leah, and thank you to everyone who have been here and have joined us here today. Thank you so much. Next week, we're going to be talking to Kimberly John of Fast Susu, which is another interesting company. So please tune back in. We're here almost every Tuesday, kind of typically 4 out of 5 weeks or 3 out of 4 weeks, depending on the month. We're doing an IG Live at this time with another founder, or with a founder from the community, which is cool. And thanks again to Startup Canada and the Startup Women Program. Really appreciate your support here this month. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you here next week. Thank you again, Leah.
My pleasure.
Bye, everyone.